is day 120 of 365 days of remembering. Trina right here, I'm happy to see you. And believe me, even though I can't see you, I feel your presence, and I am delighted to have the chance to share with you. So lately, over the last few days, I have been thinking about, and then after the experience in the other video that I did about shifting this day of like some heavy resistance that came to me, I had this recognition. What would it be like if I just lived from the truths that I know? Like, what would it be like if I just unquestionably stayed in that space of truth? Like, I am a being of love and light. I'm infinite. I choose my reality moment to moment. I can choose a different reality moment to moment. And one of the most freeing components is once you choose a script, even though things happen nanosecond to nanosecond, that's really hard for us to fathom because it's just so like small, like such a tiny little moment. So because of momentum and because of the law of attraction, once we lean into a script, it's going to carry us for a little ways and it's going to play out the momentum. So that can work on both sides. If you have an off moment, you can just trust that it's going to play out and then do your best to come back into alignment and choose a different script. And if it's playing out in your favor, like once you declare it and tune into it in the quantum field, then it's just going to take you, and all the things that need to happen are just going to fall into place. And I don't mean it just from a manifestation of stuff or experiences. I mean it at a growth of your soul level. So if we approached our path the way Matt Kahn talks about, which is from the soul's perspective, so it becomes a journey of our soul, so much of the time we're doing it as an ego. How would that be different? And so one of the things that I have been leaning into is the seeker in me, which, even the questioner, like I did a video on recently, but that aspect of me that just really thinks it wants to know, is that aspect of me coming, is that part of the soul journey or part of the ego journey? And is it really serving me? Because it is true that the more you know, the more you want to know. And it is true that since we are on this endless journey of expansion, you never get it done, you never get it wrong, it seems like there will just be more and more and more. And it's fun to play in it, don't get me wrong. But at the same point, mapped with the other thing that I came to understand, which is that we spend most of our time in a state of being out of alignment, looking to get ourselves back into alignment. It was just an interesting thing, like a perspective that I think is coming from the ego. So I'm not where I want to be. Where I want to be is hard to get to. I can't hold it, I can't maintain it, but yet it's our natural state of being. Like, it's literally who we are, a being of love and light, in flow with our inner being, in flow with source, in flow with all that is, infinite, invincible, unchanging, ever present, all encompassing. And yet we get off on that changing thing. We get off on the bettering of ourself, which is ultimately our character, our person. And that's a piece of the puzzle too, and it's all fine and good as long as our standard reference point, our centered point, is firmly rooted in the soul. Then it becomes this beautiful unfolding of our journey and our character. So it's just interesting if we think about it from what would it look like if you spent 80, 90, 95% of your time in alignment and only whatever the rest would be, like 20, 15, 10, 5% of time out of alignment. And then recognize that out of alignment time was necessary because it's what gives you the catalyst to keep the expansion moving forward. It's what gives you the catalyst to have something to sort of expand to the soul, to like move into newer, expanded places. And I know it sounds like such a contradiction because on the one hand, we're ever present, we're unchanging, we're this like container that holds everything, and then at the same time we're expanding. And so interesting because those two things can simultaneously occur. And if it helps, you could look at it like your character is the one that is the visible representation of that expansion, and your soul is what's holding the space for the expansion. Though I also think that your inner being is holding the space and your soul is sort of a level in between, and it too is expanding. But to look at, the soul just knows that everything that's happening to it is to increase that expansion. Whereas your ego is almost afraid of anything that would lead to that expansion. So I just thought it was an interesting thing to notice. If we wanted to shift paradigms, then part of the shifting would have to be, I already am that which I want to be. You know, that's one of the big enlightenment teachings is, I already am it. There's nowhere I need to go. There's nothing over there that I need to get, because it is me. Like it's in essence the fiber, what I'm made of. You know, I think I mentioned in another video, and I don't remember which one, but that idea that like God broke off a shard that was my inner being, and then my inner being literally took itself and manifested this other aspect of itself, which is now me, which is now you. So we are literally formed by the same energy of God. Like, and so is everything else in this world of illusion. Very beautiful right now because I'm in the forest sitting in the trees. It's a pretty creek, but you get what I mean. So in that sense, then everything, every being, everything is just part of the props, part of the scenery, part of the set. Other characters, other actors wearing different masks to help us come to this journey with ourselves of knowing that we're a soul and that we have unlimitedness as part of who we are. But so interesting that there's this automatic sort of right now, because of how long we've been trained and conditioned into believing we're this body and we're this character and we live in lack and we have all these limits and we have to work to do things and we have to gain value from other people and we have to prove ourselves, and the list just goes on and on and on. That momentum of that being hammered down to us from the time we were pretty much born, of course that became our set point, that became our reference point. But what if it wasn't? What if we just made the entire spiritual journey about moving that reference point to back to where I am a being of love and light? That's the reference point that I'm going to come from. And it's what I've done for the last 2 days. And it's funny because I can still feel the sort of pulling. The momentum's still there. It's still pulling me. But I also know that I got this and I can do this. And I also ultimately know that once I pick the script, it's going to play out. And so even if I don't have it, that will be perfect too, because whatever arises is perfect. But I'm going to stand in this place of believing that in this moment, I do have a choice, and I am, with as many levels of my consciousness, with as many aspects of my beingness, choosing to shift my paradigm to something different, in spite of the fact that the rest of the collective is not in that space and is not going to be there. And that's why most people don't choose to do it, because it's different and it's strange, and it's sort of like swimming in a pool that feels, well, I don't know. I can't think of a pretty good analogy, but like, let's see. I was going to say it's kind of like swimming upstream when everyone else is going downstream. I mean, but that actually what's underlying that is they're all swimming upstream, but they don't even know it, but that's the good, okay. I got a good analogy for that. So it's like swimming in a river and noticing that everyone else is swimming upstream because they think life is made of hard work and they got to push against the limits and push against the this and the that and get everything that they don't like out of their way so that nothing will get in their way and cause them to feel bad or experience a loss or any sensations they don't want. But yet you just decide to not do any of that and let go, and the natural river of your own well-being, the natural river of remembering, just carries you, and it's this beautiful, easy, floating experience. So on the one hand, it looks as if you're going against the grain, you're going against the momentum, because that's what the collective has chosen to do. But then when you sort of surrender and sink into it, you realize, but wait a minute, I'm just going back to the natural beingness of who I already am, where unlimited abundance is what is the basis of my experience, and my soul has it, and everything is working out for me, and it's all for the betterment and the deeper expansion of myself, of all of us, of the planet. Because, I look at you and I look at everybody else as just aspects of me, and I invite you to look at me as just an aspect of you. So when you tune into these videos and I'm telling you something, and by the way, if you like them, then hit the like video for this one and click the subscribe button so I can continue to be the perfect reflection for you, because that's all it is. I sit on this video telling you things that you already know, you just weren't tuned into right this minute, or maybe have forgotten, but we're ready to remember, because I am merely just an aspect of you telling you these things. And that goes for everyone. It doesn't matter who it is, your mother, your child, your favorite spiritual teacher, an author you love, an actor, literally, because everyone's an actor in your favorite movie, whatever it is, are ultimately just all the sleeping people that we wish would wake up. There are still aspects of our consciousness played out loud in this illusion to help us untangle it all and figure it all out. So my invitation is, what would it be like to switch that paradigm, to be in a space where you knew you were an infinite being of love and light, and you acted according to that, and that was the thing that led you through. And do whatever it takes. I know I've been playing in like imagination. There's many spiritual teachers, Kyle C., Spentino Massaro, Abraham Hicks, Neville Goddard, I'm sure the list is even more than that talk about the power of imagination. Because I remember when I did my training as a hypnotherapist, the mind can't tell the difference between what is happening and what is happening like in the concrete, whatever we call physical reality, and what is happening in your imagined mind. It can't tell the difference between those things. It will act as if it's true. So just keep leaning into that imagining. Just keep deciding, and then playing with some of the Joe Dispenza stuff, and just zoom into the quantum field and know that a script that is what you want to experience is already there for you. And stay at the time of it, stay out of the how of it. I mean, check out his book if you really want to know the details, but it is really incredible. And if you think about how good it feels, I mean, it feels good to be in alignment. That's why we want it. But as long as we perceive alignment as something that I have to go get because I don't already have it, or I'm out and now I got to get back in, or why did I get out, or what did I do wrong? Let's just imagine that all the time you're in alignment. That is your state of being. What would happen? Like, I don't mean it like, oh, I'm in alignment all the time, so now I've got it. You know, I mean it like that, but on a different level. I don't mean it like that just coming from your ego, so that you don't have to do anything ever again. I more mean it like, what would that be like? Like, do some imagining about that. Like, how would it feel, and what would it mean, and what would it shift for me, and how would I show up differently in my life? How would I feel moment to moment? And then when some offness thing comes, I'm gonna go, oh, this is okay. It's just it's like driving down the smooth highway and having a little bit of, you know, when they've just sort of retarred the road and it just sort of has those, or they're retarring it, it's got those little bumpy bits, but it's only a small section. So are you just gonna get off that highway and be like, no, I'm done? No, you're gonna just go through the bump because the rest of the road was so smooth. Or like any little thing, like there's a tiny little something, the river runs past it and through it and around it. And so I invite you to just do the same, knowing that your set point of well-being is to be in alignment, is to be connected with your inner being. That's why your inner being exists. That's the whole reason why your inner being is the second part of your expression here, the vibrational counterpart of you, holding the space, holding the light, holding the sourceness, calling you to it, calling you to it, calling you to it. If you're not listening because you think you're not in alignment, then you're missing all of those receiving modes, all those moments, all of those nudges, all that inspiration. So the question being, what would it look like? Maybe get a journal, have a little quiet meditative time with yourself, and be like, if alignment was my set point, because that's who I really am, and well-being is who I am. I'm a being of love and light. That's what I stand in. That's what I'm made of. I'm looking at it from the soul's journey. Everything is here to serve me. So now, from my imagination, what does life look like? What does my day-to-day experience start to look like? See the off moments as the exceptions, not the rule, and see alignment as the rule. Connection, attunement, feeling good, feeling happy. And the funny thing too about this, the funny, amusing, interesting thing, is when you're in that space, then what? Everything that comes your way can be something that you smile at, can be something that you're excited about, can be something that reminds you that you're on a soul's journey, and doesn't have to be something that you frown upon or that takes you out of alignment, which is the thing that we all want to say to keep us from making this easier than what it is, and seeing it just as perfectly as it could be. So I invite you to consider that, play with it, have fun with it. What a shift, because there's a whole paradigm that's going to come along with that shift. And I just started to realize how much time I spend under the auspice that I don't have it, that I'm not there, and that when I come out, I come out. I come out of what? Like, what did I come out of? And when you think about it, like, if you're in a natural state, then isn't it easier to maintain a natural state of what is already? Like, if you put, I'm trying to think of something, like, what could I say? Well, if you put a cork on the top of the water and it floats, and I know Abraham has used this analogy, then it just floats. That's its natural state. It floats on the top of the water. But if you push it down, it takes efforting to push it down. So in essence, our natural well-being is the cork floating, and we, as Abraham would say, push it down because we add resistance. So there's nothing that's really, it's not really like we went anywhere. It's not really like we've done anything. It's just we're having, and maybe the only resistance most of the time is a belief that we're not there, and so we keep holding it down. So when we allow our natural well-being to flow, it's just going to flow. So I invite you to play with that. If you have any comments, put them in the comment box so we can get some conversation going. I would love to talk about that, hear about your experience, have fun with it.